The courtroom was silent, except for the rhythmic tap of my Louboutins against marble as I walked toward the plaintiff's table. My mother's face drained of color. My sister Maya clutched her designer handbag, the one she'd borrowed from my closet in my previous life, so hard her knuckles turned white. They didn't recognize me at first. Why would they? The last time they saw me, I was their pathetic doormat dying on a hospital gurney while they fought over my apartment lease. Your Honor, I said, my voice clear and confident. I'm attorney Sophia Chen, representing myself in this matter of estate fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit murder. That's when Maya screamed. Let me take you back to where it all began, or rather, where it all ended. I was 23 years old, lying in a hospital bed with my organs systematically shutting down. The doctors said it was acute liver failure, sudden and unexplainable. But I knew the truth. I'd known it the moment I saw Maya slip something into my water bottle 3 days before my bar exam. My mother stood at the foot of my bed, not crying, not holding my hand. She was on the phone with the landlord of my apartment, the one bedroom I'd scrimped and saved for through 4 years of college and 3 years of law school. Yes, I'm her mother. She won't be needing it anymore. Can we transfer the lease to my other daughter? Maya stood beside her, scrolling through her phone. She was wearing my blazer. The Armani one I'd bought with my signing bonus from the law firm where I was supposed to start in 2 weeks. She'd borrowed it that morning, saying she had an important interview. Maya, I whispered, my throat raw. Why? She looked up, annoyed. Oh, you're still awake? Look, Soph, don't be dramatic. You were never going to make it as a lawyer anyway. Remember your debate championship? Oh, wait, no, none of us do, because we didn't go. We were at my dance recital instead. You understand, right? I was only 7. I needed mom and dad there. I was 12, I managed. I won nationals. And nobody cared then either, Maya said, examining her nails. Face it, you were always the placeholder child, the one who existed to make me look better. And now that I'm graduating, I need your apartment. The firm that was going to hire you, I applied there too. With your credentials on my resume, your LSAT score, your law review position, your internship at the DA's office, it's not stealing if you're not going to use them, right? My mother finally looked at me. Don't look at your sister like that, Sophia. She's doing you a favor, really. You'd have failed the bar exam anyway. You always choke under pressure. Remember when you forgot your entire speech at that silly debate thing? I didn't forget. I gave the speech of my life. They just weren't there to hear it. My father walked in then carrying coffee. He glanced at me, then at his watch. Is this going to take much longer? I have a tea time at 4. Those were the last words I heard before everything went black. And then I woke up. I was sitting at my childhood desk, sun streaming through the window, my hand cramping around a pencil. I looked down. I was writing an essay about what I want to be when I grow up. The handwriting was round and childish. I looked at my hands, small, unmanicured, with a rainbow friendship bracelet Maya had made me for my birthday, my 12th birthday, 2 days before the National Debate Championship. I dropped the pencil and ran to the mirror. The face staring back at me was 12 years old, round-cheeked and hopeful, wearing a future lawyer t-shirt my grandmother had given me before she died. But behind those young eyes was the memory of 23 years lived, a law degree earned, and a family that poisoned me to steal everything I'd worked for. I had been given a second chance. The door burst open and Maya bounded in, 7 years old and gap-toothed. Sophie, Mom says you have to come to my recital on Saturday. It's so important. I'm the lead flower. Saturday, the same day as my debate championship. The day that, in my previous life, I'd nodded and smiled and said, of course Maya's recital was more important. The day I'd stood on that national stage completely alone, won first place, and come home to find my family hadn't even recorded Maya's performance because they were too busy getting ice cream afterward. No, I said. Maya's face crumpled. What? I said no. I have the National Debate Championship on Saturday. I've been working toward this for 2 years. You have a recital every 6 months. I have this one chance. She ran from the room, crying, and within minutes, my mother was at my door, her face set in that expression of disappointed exhaustion she'd perfected over the years. Sophia Chen, what has gotten into you? Your sister is devastated. I'm going to my debate championship, Mom. Whether you come or not is your choice. But I'm not missing it for a recital I've already seen twice this year. My mother's eyes narrowed. You're being incredibly selfish. This is a family, Sophia. We support each other. Then support me, I said, meeting her gaze with 12-year-old eyes that held 23 years of pain. Come to my championship. She slammed the door without answering. Saturday came. I took the bus to the convention center alone, carrying my research cards and my carefully prepared arguments about restorative justice in the juvenile system. I'd chosen the topic deliberately this time. In my previous life, I'd argued about environmental policy. I'd been good, but not personal enough, not passionate enough. This time, I would be both. I won, of course, but I won differently. I won with the knowledge of 2 lifetimes, with the pain of betrayal fueling every word, with the understanding that some families destroy their children not with violence, but with neglect so casual it feels like weather. When they called my name for first place, I accepted the trophy with steady hands. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes, pulled me aside afterward. That was remarkable, she said. Have you considered a career in law? Every day, I said. She handed me her card on the I'm a family law attorney. When you're ready for an internship in high school, call me. You have something special, young lady. A fire. I looked at the card, Jennifer Morrison, Morrison and Associates. In my previous life, I'd never met her. This was new. This was different. This was my advantage. Not just the foreknowledge of what my family would do, but the chance to build a completely different path, to forge connections they'd never know about, to become someone they couldn't touch. I took the bus home holding my trophy and Ms. Morrison's card. When I walked in the door, my mother was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. She didn't look up. How was Maya's recital? I asked. Magical. She was perfect. We got it all on video. That's nice. I won first place, nationals. There's going to be an article in the paper. My mother finally turned, her expression one of mild surprise. Oh, that's nice, dear. Can you set the table? Your father and sister will be home soon. That was it. No congratulations, no pride, no acknowledgement that I'd achieved something most adults never accomplish. And I realized with crystal clarity that this was never going to change. In this life or my previous one, I would never be enough for them. The problem wasn't me, it was them, but this time I would be ready. Over the next 6 years, I became a ghost in my own home. I was polite, helpful, invisible. I did my chores, kept my grades perfect, and never asked for anything. My parents and Maya found this version of me much more agreeable. They stopped expecting resistance because I never gave it. But behind that placid exterior, I was building an empire. I took Ms. Morrison up on her internship offer when I was 15. I spent every summer and weekend at her firm learning the law from the ground up. I watched how she dismantled lying spouses in divorce proceedings, how she protected children from neglectful parents, how she wielded the law like a scalpel to cut away the rotten families. You have a gift for seeing patterns, she told me once, reviewing a case I'd helped research. Most people see individual actions. You see conspiracy. I thought of Maya wearing my blazer, my mother calling about my apartment, my father checking his watch while I died. I've had good teachers, I said. When I was 16, I started documenting everything. Every time my mother forgot a parent-teacher conference, but made it to Maya's dance competitions. Every birthday where my gift was an afterthought, usually something Maya had picked out and didn't want. Every college tour she took Maya on while I rode the bus to visit schools alone. Every dinner conversation where my accomplishments were met with, "That's my nice, dear," while Maya's most trivial achievements were celebrated. I kept a journal, backed up digitally in 3 separate encrypted locations. I scanned every report card, every award, every letter of acceptance. I recorded conversations on my phone, legal in our state as long as one party consented, and I always consented. I became a one-woman evidence-gathering operation. My family thought I was just studious. They had no idea I was building a legal case. Senior year of high school, I got into Yale Law School's joint BA JD program. It was one of the most prestigious paths in the country. Only 30 students accepted each year. I would complete my bachelor's degree in 3 years, then move directly into law school. I got the acceptance letter on a Tuesday. I came home to find Maya crying at the kitchen table, my mother rubbing her back. "What's wrong?" I asked, already knowing. This had happened in my previous life, too. "I didn't get into the community college summer dance intensive," Maya sobbed. "It's only $1,500, but they say we can't afford it." My mother looked at me. "Sophia, you're always so practical. You understand, don't you? We need to save money this year. College is expensive." "I got into Yale," I said. My mother blinked. "What?" "I got into Yale. Full academic scholarship plus a stipend. It covers everything." That's wonderful, honey." She turned back to Maya. "See, sweetheart? Maybe we can find the money for your intensive after all." My father came home and I told him the news. He nodded, distracted. "Yale, where's that again? Connecticut?" "New Haven, mas," I said. "Long way away." He sounded pleased. That night I heard them through the wall of my bedroom. "Did you see her face?" my mother said. "She actually expected us to be excited. About Connecticut. Maya's here, studying dance at State, and Sophia wants us to celebrate her moving across the country." "At least we won't have to pay for it," my father said. "That scholarship means Maya can have a real college experience. Dorms, meal plans, everything." I lay in my childhood bed, listening to them plan Maya's future with my money. Because that's what it was, really. The money they weren't spending on me would be spent on her. It had been this way my entire life, and it would continue to be this way unless I stopped it. Yale was everything I'd hoped for and nothing they'd understand. I completed my bachelor's in political science in 3 years, graduating summa cum laude. I barely came home. Christmas for 3 days, Thanksgiving for 2. My mother complained that I never visited, that I didn't care about family anymore. I didn't mention that they'd come to visit me exactly 0 times. I didn't mention that I'd invited them to my undergraduate graduation, and they'd said they couldn't afford the trip, then posted pictures from Maya's weekend dance showcase in Atlantic City. I just smiled and said I was very busy. With school. Law school was harder but more rewarding. I specialized in family law and estate litigation, taking every class Ms. Morrison recommended. I clerked at her firm every summer. She became the mentor my parents never were, the person who saw my potential and nurtured it. "You're going to make someone very sorry someday," she said once, reviewing my brief for a case about financial elder abuse. "That's the plan," I said. By the time I was ready to take the bar exam, I was 23 again, the same age I'd died in my previous life. This time, there was no Maya slipping poison into my water. This time, I was in Connecticut studying in a library with security cameras and witness protection level paranoia about my drinks. But I knew what was coming, because even though I'd changed my path, some things about my family remained constant. Their selfishness, their entitlement, their absolute certainty that anything I had belonged to them by right. 2 weeks before the bar exam, my mother called. "Sophia, darling, we need to talk about your apartment." Here it was, right on schedule. "I don't have an apartment, Mom. I live in student housing." "Well, that firm you're going to work for, they must have given you a signing bonus, didn't they? For finding a place?" They had $50,000. I'd put it all into a trust fund my family couldn't touch. "They gave me a small stipend for moving expenses," I lied. "Perfect. So Maya can use it. She's moving to Connecticut for a dance opportunity and she needs an apartment. Since you're getting one anyway, you two can share. It'll be so fun. Like sisters." We'd never shared anything in our lives that wasn't her taking from me. "I don't think so, Mom. I need to focus on studying for the bar." "Sophia," her voice went cold, "and Maya is your sister. You will help her." "No," I said. "I won't." She hung up on me. 3 days later, I got a call from Maya. She was crying. "Sophie, please." "Mom and Dad cut me off. They said if you won't help me, they can't afford to help me either. They're choosing you over me." The manipulation was so blatant, it was almost beautiful. They were punishing Maya for my disobedience, then blaming me for the punishment. In my previous life, this tactic had worked. I'd caved, let Maya move in, and watched as she systematically destroyed my life. Not this time. Maya, you're 20 years old. Get a job. You're such a bitch, she screamed. You've always been jealous of me. Always. Just because I'm prettier and more talented? I hung up. Then I called Miss Morrison. It's time, I said. Are you sure? She asked. Once you start this, there's no going back. I died, Jennifer. I came back. There's no going back from that either. She was quiet for a moment. What do you need? A private investigator, the best you have. I passed the bar exam with one of the highest scores in Connecticut's history. The firm I clerked at offered me an associate, position starting at $180,000 a year. I was 23 years old, a licensed attorney, and about to declare war on my family. The private investigator I hired, Marcus Webb, a former FBI agent, took 3 months to compile the full picture. It was worse than I'd imagined. My parents had taken out credit cards in my name when I was 16. They'd maxed them out, paying for Maya's dance competitions, her costumes, her private lessons. They'd destroyed my credit before I was old enough to know what credit was. They'd cashed savings bonds my grandmother had left me, $15,000 meant for my education, and used the money to buy Maya a car for her 16th birthday. They'd claimed me as a dependent on their taxes every year I was in college, taking the education credits for tuition I'd paid with scholarships and loans, then keeping the refunds. My father had forged my signature on a lease agreement for an apartment I'd never seen, using my name to secure housing for Maya while letting her trash the place. When she'd been evicted, the judgment had gone against me. And most damning of all, they'd been planning to contest my grandmother's will. My grandmother, who'd died when I was 10, had left a trust fund that would become available to me at 25. It was worth nearly $2 million. My parents had already contacted a lawyer about having me declared mentally incompetent so they could control the trust as my guardians. They were going to have you institutionalized, Marcus said, sliding the documents across the table. The lawyer they consulted specializes in conservatorships. They wanted to claim you had a psychotic break, commit you, and drain the trust before you ever knew it existed. I thought about dying in that hospital bed, about Maya wearing my blazer, about my father checking his watch. I thought about the poisoned water bottle I'd never been able to prove. In my previous life, I said slowly, I think they did worse than steal from me. I think they killed me. Marcus leaned back. Miss Morrison told me about your situation, your rebirth. I don't pretend to understand it, but I believe you. And based on what I've found, I believe they're capable of murder. So what do we do? He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We build a case. Over the next 18 months, I worked as an associate at my firm by day and built my case against my family by night. I sued them in civil court for the identity theft, the fraud, the credit card theft. I reported them to the IRS for tax fraud. I contacted the landlord about the forged lease and provided evidence that the signature wasn't mine. But that was just the beginning. I also started playing the long game. I reconnected with my family, pretending the estrangement had been a misunderstanding. I visited home for Christmas. I took my mother to lunch. I went to Maya's dance performances and clapped politely. I became the daughter they'd always wanted, compliant, supportive, invisible. And I wore a wire to every single interaction. You have to understand, Sophia, my mother said over lunch one day, her voice clear on the recording device in my purse. Maya is special. She always has been. She needs more support, more resources. You're strong. You've always been able to take care of yourself. Is that why you took out credit cards in my name? I asked gently. She had the grace to look uncomfortable. We were going to pay them back. We just needed a little help during a difficult time. You understand? And Grandma's savings bonds? Your grandmother would have wanted Maya to have that car. She loved both her granddaughters equally. Did she? I asked. Because in her will, she left everything to me, not Maya. Me. My mother's face hardened. That was a mistake. Your grandmother was sick at the end. She didn't know what she was doing. She had cancer, Mom, not dementia. She knew exactly what she was doing. Well, it doesn't matter now, does it? You'll share the trust with Maya when it becomes available. That's what family does. And if I don't? She smiled. It was the same smile I'd seen in my previous life, right before everything went wrong. Then I suppose we'll have to explore other options. You've been acting very strangely lately, Sophia. Paranoid, delusional. Perhaps you need help. Professional help. There it was. The threat, clear and unambiguous, recorded in crystal clarity. I smiled back. Perhaps you're right, Mom. Perhaps I do need help. I stood up, left cash on the table for my untouched meal, and walked out of the restaurant. 3 days later, I filed a restraining order against both my parents and Maya. The day after that, I filed criminal charges for identity theft, fraud, and conspiracy to commit guardianship fraud. The day after that, I sued them in civil court for emotional distress, financial damages, and punitive damages totaling $5 million. The day after that, I scheduled a meeting with the executor of my grandmother's trust and submitted evidence, including recorded conversations, that my parents were attempting to defraud the estate. And then I waited. My mother called me 63 times in the first week. I didn't answer. My father sent emails threatening to disown me. I saved them all as evidence. Maya showed up at my apartment building and screamed at the doorman until security escorted her away. I got that on security camera footage. Then the lawsuit started coming back at me. They sued for defamation. They sued for emotional distress. They countersued, claiming I owed them for 18 years of raising me. My father tried to have me fired from my firm by calling my managing partner and claiming I was mentally unstable. My managing partner, a 70-year-old woman who'd been practicing law since before my parents were born, called me into her office. I got an interesting phone call. Today, she said. I'd been prepared for this. I can explain. She held up her hand, Asut. Your father claimed you're having a mental breakdown and pursuing frivolous litigation against your loving family. I told him that in my professional opinion, having reviewed your work for 18 months, you're one of the most meticulous and rational attorneys I've ever supervised. Then I told him that if he contacted this office again, we'd add harassment to your existing lawsuit. I felt my eyes burn. Thank you. Don't thank me. Win your case. I've seen families like yours before, Sophia. Parents who view their children as resources to be exploited. Make them pay. The trial was scheduled for 2 years after my rebirth. When I was 25 years old, the age when my grandmother's trust would become available. My parents had their own lawyers, paid for by credit cards they'd taken out in Maya's name. The irony wasn't lost on me. The week before trial, my mother reached out through a mediator, offering to settle. They'd pay back the credit card debt and drop their countersuits if I'd drop everything and split the trust fund 3 ways. I declined. The morning of trial, I woke up in my apartment. The beautiful, secure, one-bedroom apartment I'd rented with my signing bonus. The one with cameras and deadbolts and a doorman who knew never to let my family up. And I put on my best suit. It was Armani, the same brand as the blazer Maya had stolen in my previous life. I looked at myself in the mirror. 25 years old in this life, 48 years of lived experience. I'd died and come back. I'd rebuilt everything, and today I would get my justice. Jennifer Morrison met me at the courthouse. She wasn't representing me. I was representing myself, having earned that right through the bar exam. But she was there as my support, my mentor, my chosen family. Ready? She asked. I've been ready for 13 years, I said. The courtroom was packed. My parents had brought supporters, friends from their church, neighbors who thought they were pillars of the community, Maya's dance instructors who believed the narrative of the ungrateful daughter. They filled one side of the gallery. My side was sparser. Jennifer, Marcus, the private investigator, my managing partner, a few colleagues from the firm, and, in the back row, wearing pearls and a stern expression, the judge who'd given me her business card at the National Debate Championship 13 years ago. My family sat at the defendant's table with their lawyer, a sweaty man named Richard Kramer who specialized in family defense. He'd made his career defending deadbeat dads and neglectful mothers. He was good at making victims look like perpetrators. But I was better. The judge entered, Judge Patricia Hawthorne, a woman known for her no-nonsense approach to family law. She looked at me, then at my family, and I saw the moment she understood exactly what kind of case this would be. "We're here today for Chen v. Chen," she said. "Ms. Chen, you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor." I stood. "I'm attorney Sophia Chen, representing myself in this matter of estate fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit guardianship fraud." That's when Maya screamed. "You can't be a lawyer. You're not. Your counsel will control their client," Judge Hawthorne said sharply. Richard Kramer put his hand on Maya's arm. She shook it off, staring at me like I was a ghost. In a way, I was. "Your Honor," Kramer said smoothly, "this is clearly a case of a disturbed young woman lashing out at her loving family. The Chens are respected members of their community. They raised Ms. Chen with every advantage. Every advantage except credit that wasn't destroyed, savings that weren't stolen, and parents who showed up to her national debate championship," I said. "But we'll get to that." I spent the next 3 hours building my case piece by piece. I presented the credit card statements with my forged signatures. I presented the cashed savings bonds. I presented the tax returns where they'd claimed credits for education they didn't pay for. I presented the forged lease agreement and the eviction judgment against me for an apartment I'd never lived in. And then I presented the recordings. "This is a conversation I had with my mother 6 months ago," I said, pressing play. My mother's voice filled the courtroom. "You've been acting very strangely lately, Sophia. Paranoid, delusional. Perhaps you need help. Professional help." I paused the recording. This was her response when I asked about sharing my inheritance. She threatened to have me institutionalized. I played another recording. My father this time. "Maya needs that money more than you do. You've always been selfish, Sophia. Always putting yourself first." Another Maya. "If you don't give me the apartment, I'll tell everyone you're crazy. Mom and Dad will back me up. Nobody will believe you." Another. My mother again. "We should have done this years ago. The trust is worth $2 million. We could have Maya set up for life, get ourselves out of debt. Sophia would never even know. They'd keep her medicated and quiet." The courtroom was silent. "Your Honor," I said quietly, "my family didn't just steal from me, they planned to destroy me, to have me committed, declared incompetent, and locked away so they could drain my inheritance. And I believe, though I can't prove it in this life, that in another timeline they actually killed me to achieve that goal." "Objection!" Kramer was on his feet. "This is absurd. Another timeline?" "Your Honor, this proves Ms. Chen is mentally—" "I'll allow it," Judge Hawthorne said. "Continue, Ms. Chen." I took a breath. "I can't prove what happened in my previous life. I can only tell you what I remember. I was 23 years old, about to start my career as a lawyer. My sister poisoned me. My mother stole my apartment. My father couldn't be bothered to stay for my death, and when I woke up, I was 12 years old again, 2 days before the national debate championship they never attended." I looked at my family. My mother was pale. My father was staring at his hands. Maya was crying. "I've spent the last 13 years of this life preparing for today, documenting everything, building my mon, becoming the lawyer I was meant to be. Not because I'm vindictive, Your Honor, but because I know who they are. I know what they're capable of, and I know that if I don't stop them now, they'll destroy me again." Judge Hawthorne leaned forward. "Mr. Kramer, does your client wish to respond to these allegations?" Kramer looked at my mother. She shook her head. "Very well," the judge said. I'm ready to rule." "Your Honor," Kramer said desperately, "we request a continuance to prepare a proper defense." "Denied. I've heard enough." Judge Hawthorne looked at my parents with something like disgust. "I've been a family law judge for 30 years. I've seen neglect. I've seen abuse. I've seen parents who view their children as property. But I have rarely seen such systematic, calculated exploitation as I've seen here today." She picked up her gavel. "I find in favor of the plaintiff Sophia Chen on all counts. The defendants are ordered to pay restitution for all stolen funds, including credit card debt, savings bonds, fraudulent tax refunds, and damages from the forged lease. Additionally, I'm awarding Ms. Chen punitive damages in the amount of $2 million, equivalent to the inheritance they attempted to steal. Maya sobbed. My mother sat frozen. My father finally looked up, his face red with rage. Furthermore, Judge Hawthorne continued, I'm forwarding this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. Identity theft, tax fraud, and conspiracy to commit guardianship fraud are serious crimes. I expect charges will be filed within the week. She banged the gavel. This court is adjourned. Kramer was already gathering his papers, avoiding eye contact with my family. They couldn't pay him now. They couldn't pay anyone. I'd bankrupted them as thoroughly as they'd tried to bankrupt me. My mother stood, her legs shaking. She looked at me across the courtroom, and for the first time in my entire life, I saw fear in her eyes. Sophia, she whispered, please, we're your family. No, I said. You were the people who were supposed to be my family. There's a difference. I walked out of the courtroom with my head high, Jennifer beside me, leaving behind the people who'd given me life, but never love. The criminal trial happened 6 months later. My parents were each sentenced to 3 years in prison for fraud. Maya, as an adult who'd participated in the identity theft and threats, got 2 years. They'd be eligible for parole after serving 2/3 of their sentences, but they'd be felons for the rest of their lives. The civil judgment was easier to enforce. They had to sell their house, the house I'd grown up in, where my bedroom had been the smallest and Maya's had been the master bedroom suite. They had to liquidate their retirement accounts. They had to give up Maya's car, her jewelry, everything they'd bought with my stolen money. It still wasn't enough to cover the full judgment, so I put liens on their future earnings. For the rest of their lives, any money they made would go to me first. They'd destroyed my credit. I'd destroyed their financial future. Fair trade. On my 25th birthday, I received access to my grandmother's trust. $2 million invested wisely, grown to nearly $3 million. I used it to start my own law firm specializing in family law and estate litigation. Morrison & Chen opened its doors on the 13th anniversary of my rebirth. Jennifer and I were equal partners, and our mission statement was simple: protecting children from the families that should protect them. We took on cases other firms wouldn't touch: kids suing their parents for college funds that were stolen, adult children reclaiming inheritances their siblings had taken, victims of financial elder abuse getting justice for their exploited grandparents. We won a lot. I won a lot. My reputation grew. I became known as the lawyer you called when your family betrayed you, the one who understood that sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones who were supposed to love you best. I gave speeches at law schools about family law and financial abuse. I wrote articles for legal journals about guardianship fraud and how to prevent it. I became an expert witness in cases similar to mine, and I never forgot where I came from. 5 years after the trial, I was in my office when Marcus called. Thought you'd want to know, he said. Your mother was released on parole yesterday. And? She violated within 6 hours. Tried to open a credit card in your name. I closed my eyes. Some people never learned. Press charges. Already done. She's back in custody. My father was released a year later. He tried to get a job as an accountant but couldn't pass the background check with a fraud conviction. Last I heard, he was working retail and living in a studio apartment. He'd tried to contact me once through a letter sent to my firm. I'm sorry. Ari, it said, I never meant for things to go so far. You're my daughter. I love you. I threw it away unread after Marcus screened it and told me the contents. You don't get to claim love after everything they'd done. Love was showing up to the debate championship. Love was being proud of my achievements. Love was not stealing from me, lying to me, trying to institutionalize me. Love was never what they'd given me. Maya was released after 18 months. She tried to restart her dance career, but found that at 23 with a felony record and a 2-year gap in training, nobody wanted her. She'd aged out of the competitive scene and wasn't qualified to teach. She ended up working at a dance supply store, selling the costumes she used to wear. I know this because I hired another private investigator to keep tabs on all of them. Not because I was afraid, I had restraining orders and a very good security system, but because I wanted to know if they ever tried to hurt anyone else the way they'd hurt me. So far, they'd been too busy surviving to victimize anyone new. 10 years after my rebirth, I was 35 years old with a successful firm, a beautiful apartment, and a life built entirely on my own terms. I'd been featured in legal magazines. I'd argued cases in front of the state Supreme Court. I'd trained dozens of young lawyers in how to fight for the forgotten children of narcissistic families. I'd won. One morning, I arrived at my office to find a young woman waiting in the lobby. She was 19, thin, with dark circles under her eyes and a desperate expression I recognized immediately. "Ms. Chen," she said, "I need help. My family, they've been stealing from me, taking money from my college fund, opening credit cards in my name, and now they're trying to have me declared incompetent so they can control my inheritance from my grandfather." I looked at her and saw myself at 12 years old, holding a debate trophy nobody cared about. I saw myself at 23, dying in a hospital bed while my family stole my life. I saw myself at 25, standing in a courtroom and finally getting justice. "Come into my office," I said. "Tell me everything." She followed me, and I listened to her story. Different details, same pattern. A golden child sibling, parents who played favorites, a family that viewed her as a resource rather than a person. "Can you help me?" she asked when she finished, tears streaming down her face. I pulled out a legal pad and started taking notes. "Yes," I said, I can help you. I've done this before." She looked confused. "You have?" I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd died, come back, and learned to weaponize the law against the people who should have loved her. "I've done this before," I repeated. "And I'll do it again, for you and for every other child whose family forgot they were supposed to be protected, not exploited." I worked her case personally. It took 14 months, but we won. Her parents were convicted of fraud. Her brother lost his claim to her grandfather's estate. She walked away with her inheritance intact and a restraining order protecting her from the family that had tried to destroy her. She came to work for me after she graduated law school. She was good at it, the same way I was good at it. When you've been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you, you develop a particular skill set. You learn to see patterns. You learn to document everything. You learn to fight with the law because fighting with your fists would land you in paisa. Jail, you learn to win. My firm grew. Morrison and Chen became Morrison, Chen and Associates. We hired more attorneys, all of them specializing in family law, all of them with personal experience in family exploitation. We were a firm built by survivors, for survivors, and we never lost sight of our mission, to protect the forgotten children. 20 years after my rebirth, I was 45 years old and one of the most successful family law attorneys in the country. My firm had offices in 5 states. I'd argued cases in front of federal courts. I'd helped write legislation protecting children from financial abuse by family members. I'd made a difference. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I'd learned to be cautious over the years, but something made me pick up. "Sophia?" The voice was old, querulous, scared. "My mother." "What do you want?" I asked. "I'm dying," she said. "Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors say I have 3 months." I felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where family feeling should have been. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said automatically. "I wanted to apologize," she continued, "for everything. You were right about all of it. I was a terrible mother. I favored Maya. I stole from you. I tried to destroy you. I'm sorry." I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window of my corner office at the city sprawling below. "Why are you calling me now?" I asked. "Is it because you're dying and you want forgiveness? Or because you're dying and you want something else?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Maya can't take care of me. She's not well. The years in prison, the stress, she's developed problems. Mental health problems. Your father is gone. He died 2 years ago, heart attack. I have no one else." There it was. She wasn't calling to apologize. She was calling because she needed something, and I was the only resource left. Some things never changed. "You have no one," I said slowly, "because you destroyed everyone who ever tried to love you. You had a daughter who won a national debate championship at 12 years old. You could have had a daughter who became a successful lawyer. You could have had a relationship with me, a real relationship, if you'd ever once chosen me over Maya. I know, she whispered. I know that now. But you didn't know it then. You didn't know it when I was 12 or 15 or 23. You only know it now because everyone else is gone and you have nowhere else to turn. Please, Sophia, I'm your mother. I thought about the hospital bed in my previous life. I thought about Maya wearing my blazer and my mother calling about my apartment while I died. I thought about my father checking his watch. I thought about the 12-year-old girl who came home with a national championship trophy and heard, "That's nice, dear," before being told to set the table. No, I said, you gave birth to me, but you were never my mother. A mother shows up, a mother protects, a mother chooses her child. I'm begging you. Hospice care is covered by Medicare, I said. You'll be taken care of. You won't suffer. But I won't be there. I can't be there. Because you taught me a very important lesson. Family isn't who you're born to. Family is who shows up. I hung up. She died 6 weeks later. I didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Maya, apparently. She was in a psychiatric facility, her mind broken by years of being the golden child who never learned to cope with reality. I felt bad for Maya, in a distant way. She'd been a tool of our parents' dysfunction just as much as I had been, but she'd also made her own choices. She'd participated in my destruction willingly. She'd poisoned me in my previous life. Some things you don't forgive, even with perspective. My father's death 2 years earlier had been equally unmourned. He died alone in his studio apartment, found 3 days later by the building manager when neighbors complained about the smell. His obituary listed no survivors. Technically, that was false. I was his survivor. But I didn't correct it. I was 50 years old, 63 if you counted both lifetimes, when I finally felt at peace. I'd built something meaningful. I'd helped thousands of people escape the same fate I'd suffered. I'd turned my trauma into purpose and my pain into power. Morrison and Chen had grown into one of the premier family law firms in the nation. We had a reputation for taking on impossible cases and winning them. We had a 93% success rate in family exploitation cases. We'd recovered over $200 million for our clients, but more importantly, we'd given people their lives back. I still kept the trophy from the National Debate Championship in my office. It was tarnished now, the gold plate peeling in places, but I'd never had it restored. I liked it better this way, worn, real, proof that I'd won something before anyone believed I could. Next to it was Ms. Morrison's business card from that day, framed and preserved. Jennifer had retired 5 years earlier, handing her share of the firm to me with pride. She was 80 years old and spent her time traveling and spoiling her grandchildren. She'd become the mother I'd never had, and I'd become the daughter she'd always deserved. On the wall behind my desk was a quote I'd had engraved and mounted. The best revenge is living well. The best justice is lived truth. I'd done both. Looking back now from the perspective of 50 years and 2 lifetimes, I understood something important. My family forgetting my debate championship wasn't the moment I lost them. It was the moment I should have realized I'd never had them at all. You can't lose what you never possessed. But you can build something new. You can create your own family from the people who choose to show up, who celebrate your victories, who believe in your potential. You can take the worst thing that ever happened to you and transform it into your greatest strength. You can die, come back, and win so completely that your enemies can't even remember why they thought you were weak. That's what I did. They forgot my debate championship. After Rebirth, they never knew I became a lawyer. By the time they figured it out, it was far too late. I'd already won.